I'm Holly, and I'm coming back in the effort to get used to streaming. Today, I have this book called Concerning the Spirituality in Art by Wassily Kandinsky. This is a new book to me, but it sounds like it's going to be pretty interesting. So, I'm going to try to read some of this to you. Why? So I can get it read. Yeah, I'm still working on my art. I'm being held up by not having all the colors I want. And I also have to assemble a larger easel because I'm going to start painting larger paintings. Okay, this is one of the chapters in the book, Language of Form and Color. Now, there's a quote in here that says, the man that have no music in himself, nor is not moved with concord of sweet sounds, is fit for treasons, stratagems, and spoils. The motions of his spirit are dull as night, and his affections dark as Ebris. Let no such man be trusted. Mark the music. The Merchant of Venice, Act 5, Scene 1. Musical sound acts directly on the soul and finds an echo there because though to varying extents, music is innate in man, everyone knows that yellow, orange, and red suggest ideas of joy and plenty. These two quotations show the deep relationships between the arts, especially being music and painting. Goethe said that painting must count this relationship her main foundation, and by this prophetic remark, he seems to foretell the position in which painting is today. She stands in fact at the first stage of the road by which she will, according to her own possibilities, make art an abstraction of thought and arrive finally at at purely artistic composition. Painting has two weapons at her disposal, color and form. Form can stand alone, representing an object, either real or otherwise, or as purely abstract limit to a space or a surface, or as a purely abstract limit to a space or a surface. Color cannot stand alone. It cannot dispense with boundaries of some kind. A never ending extent of red can only be seen in the mind when the word red is heard. The color is evoked without definite boundaries. If such are necessary, they have deliberately to be imagined. But such red, as seen by the mind and not by the eye, exercises at once a definite and indefinite impression on the soul and produces spiritual harmony. I say indefinite because in, in it itself it has no suggestion of warmth or cold, such attributions having to be imagined for it afterwards as modifications of the original redness. I say definite because spiritual harmony exists without any need for such subsequent attributes of warm or cold. An analogous case is the sound of a trumpet one hears when the word trumpet is pronounced. This sound is audible to the soul without the distinct character of the trumpet heard in the point in the open air or in a room, played alone or with other instruments in hands of a position post, postilion, a huntsman, a soldier, or a professional musician. But when red is presented in a material form as a painting, it must possess one, some definite shade of many shades of red that exists, two, a limited surface divided off from other colors, which are undoubtedly there. The first of these conditions, subjective, is affected by the sound, by the second, objective, for the neighboring colors affect the shade of red. The essential connection between color and form brings us to the question of influence of form on color. Form alone, even though totally abstract and geometrical, has a power of inner suggestion. A triangle without the accessory consideration of its being acute or obtuse, angled or equilateral has a spiritual value of its own. In connection with other forms, this value may be somewhat modified but remains a quality the same. The case is similar with a circle, square, or any conceivable geometrical figure. As above with red, we have here a subjective substance and an objective shell. So he's trying to explain that colors exist in the mind and in space. And if you put a color on a surface, whatever it's surrounded by, whatever colors or shape is surrounded by, accentuates that color or eliminates that color. So um, he's saying that the use of color, as with the use of sound, is not only a physical thing that you can see, but a spiritual thing that you recognize inwardly before it happens, just by saying the words. Say the word red in your mind, you can remember what red is. Say the word trumpet in your mind, you can remember how a trumpet sounds. Now, you will relate the sound of the trumpet to whatever the last experience that you had with a trumpet. If it was at a funeral where they played taps, you will remember, oh, I remember that trumpet sound. If you were in a theater and they were having a band, live band, you will remember that sound. If you have a person in your family that plays practicing the trumpet in school or something, you will remember that sound. And it will bring out a spiritual feeling within you in relationship to how you put that uh, artistic form in your mind, how you relate to it in the world. I wanted to read this because art being spiritual is kind of important, because you can paint a picture just like this picture. I painted this picture as a copy of a picture that was in the book. I didn't have to invoke my own personal style in this picture. I had to invoke my personal understanding of colors in the picture so that the picture will come out looking similar to the one that I saw in the book. But that's different from saying, okay, I'm going to use this blue because I feel like this blue best represents what I'm trying to say. I was trying to say what this person was trying to say, not what I was trying to say. And although this picture is a replica of something I saw in a book, I was able to personalize it a little bit spiritually because when I tried to just copy from the book, it didn't, the colors didn't register the feeling that I felt when I looked at the picture. Like, this is actually two pictures that I put together. I liked the sky on one page because I was interested in eclipses, and the book that I was using is a book about the moon. And the moon phases are in there, and the reason why people look at the moon is in there. It's more of a evokes a spiritual meaning when you look at the book, because it's about place and time and how you see the moon and how different people see the moon and how the moon is being reacted to. And so I took the moon from one page and took the man walking in the dark from another page, walking with his camels in the dark from another page. Because to me, they, in my spirit, those two things belong together. Um, it makes a more meaningful moon picture when somebody is capturing the moon. It's like otherwise it would have to come from outside of the picture where somebody looks at that moon on that painting and says, I feel like I'm there. I've seen that moon before. Whereas this person in the picture actually is there and is using the spirituality of the moon at that time in space. So that's why I thought this book would be interesting. And I'm going to continue to read it. I know that you may not like the reading part because reading is cumbersome for everybody. And that's the reason why I'm reading it on this activity, because I get to read the book and don't have to sit here and try to read it by myself and fall asleep. So I'm just going to read a little bit more, and then I'm going to come back and talk to you another day. It is evident that many colors are hampered and even nullified in effect by many forms. On the whole, keen colors are well suited by sharp forms, and soft, deep colors by round forms. But it must be remembered that an unsuitable combination of form and color is not necessarily discordant, but may, with manipulation, show the way to fresh possibilities of harmony. So, in that, he was saying, like, keen colors, he was referring to yellow of a triangle. Soft, deep colors, he was referring to a blue of a circle. And he's saying that they don't necessarily have to clash with each other, but may be manipulated to show a new way that these two can bring harmony in a painting. Um, since colors and form are well nigh innumerable in combination, and their influence are likewise unending, the material is inexhaustible. Uh, Form, in a narrow sense, is nothing but a separating line between surfaces of color. That is the outer meaning, but it has also an inner meaning of varying intensity, and properly speaking, form is the outward expression of the inward of it this inner meaning. Uh, yeah, varying intensity. Yeah. Well, you can see that when people do portraits. Sometimes a portrait is just of somebody sitting there and it looks very still life, very not very personal. And some people can paint a person that looks so real that it's unrealistic, and also show them in different uh, motions, uh, uh, trying to think of that word, uh, emotions, not just emotions, but the way you stroke your pen, the way you have an angle and a uh, lean towards this way and your face towards that way. And this gives different expressions to that picture, which makes them more animated. Even though the picture is not supposed to be an animation, it is more expressive. Whereas some portraits are very firm and almost cold. The only pictures that I know of a portrait that is firm, that is not cold, is when you do a portrait of a child, because a child has more energy in their face. Maybe the colors are more red and exciting, and other people's face is more, you know, plain and firm and cold, toned down, because you want to capture them at a specific time, and it depends on the environment that you're painting them in, if they're posing, uh, and the background that you put them in, and you know, things like that. Um, where and it's totally different, because if you paint a tree, you can paint a tree and make it expressive and exciting no matter what the background is. But people, that's a whole different thing. Um, so the two aspects of form mentioned define its two aims. The task of limiting surfaces, the outer aspect, as well performed if the inner meaning is fully expressed. The outer task may assume many different shapes, but will never fail in one of two purposes. Either the form aims at so limiting surface as to fashion of them some material object, or form remains abstract, describing only a non-material spiritual entity, such as non material entities with life and value, such as are a circle and triangle, a rhombus, trapeze, many of them so complicated as to have no mathematical denomination. Between these two extremes lie innumerable forms of which both elements exist, with a preponderance either of abstract or material. These intermediate forms are at present the store on which the artist has to draw. Purely abstract forms are beyond the reach of the artist at present. They are too indefinite for him to limit himself to purely indefinite would be to rob himself of possibilities, to exclude the human element, and therefore to weaken his power of expression. Now, I don't know about that because you don't have to have human form in your power of expression, and it doesn't have to be abstract. Nature has a lot of emotions in nature. There's a lot of the time of day. The sky has so much. I never thought I'd see so many expressions of feeling in the sky. Um, the blueness, the whiteness, the all different colors that go through there at different times of day and different weather. Um, it's just a lot, a whole, and it's not a real definite form like a triangle or octagon or something. It's a almost abstract art because although you see the where the clouds are in the sky, your interpretation is an abstraction of what you see because it's nobody is going to paint that sky exactly the way you did. It's still abstract, although it's definite. Uh, so anyway, I hope you enjoyed this discussion. I know it's hard to read a book, and you probably don't really like the part where I'm reading, and maybe I'll get better at reading it. But I do like this idea of helping me and you understand this book. So, this is one of the books I'm going to read. I have so many books I want to read. So, I think this is going to be a lifetime of putting it on YouTube, maybe. Thank you.